Good evening and welcome to another edition of HGP Sportcast for today, Friday, August 15, 2014. I am Jaden Samuels. Thanks for joining us. Cricket news: Guyana Amazon Warriors will be looking to repeat yesterday's performance when they face the Barbados Tridents in the final of this year's CPL tomorrow. The Warriors stormed into a second consecutive CPL final with a thumping 10-wicket win over defending champions Jamaica Talawas in St. Kitts. Amazon Warriors' victory was the first instance of a team winning with a 10-wicket margin in the Caribbean Premier League. Let's take a look. Martin Guptill and Lendell Simmons took less than 15 overs to overhaul a target of 135. The pair got off to a quiet start. The first 4 overs yielded only 21 runs, but rapidly caught up with the scoring rate within the next few overs. The match slipped away from the Talawas between the 5th and 11th overs when Guptill and Simmons smashed 84 runs, bringing the equation down to a comfortable 30 of 9 overs. The unbroken 138 run stand was the third century opening partnership between the two batsmen in this season of the Caribbean Premier League. Earlier in the tournament, the pair had added 103 against Barbados Tridents and a CPL record stand of 154 against St. Lucia Zouks. Simmons was unbeaten on 71 of 43 balls with 7 fours and 3 sixes, while Guptill's 46-ball 66, his 5th half-century of the tournament, had 6 fours and 2 sixes. Simmons' knock kept him on top of the run-scoring chart with 426 runs in 10 innings so far at a strike rate of 133.12. Earlier, the Talawas innings suffered from a lack of momentum as the middle order failed to capitalize on the start given by the openers Chris Gale and Chadwick Walton. The pair added 55 runs but fell in successive overs at the halfway mark. Andre Russell and Nkrumah Bonner added a quick 35 runs, but their dismissals of successive balls in the 18th over meant that the innings lacked big runs at the end. Amazon Warriors will now play Tridents in the final tomorrow, and Dinesh Ramdin is hoping that the team, like yesterday, can bring the bacon home. The first ball will be bowled at 16 hours. Football news: while the embattled president of the Guyana Football Federation, Christopher Matthias, remains unmoved despite the many calls for his resignation by various sub-associations, president of the Alpha United Football Club, Odinga Lumumba, has called for a compromise. The Alpha boss is adamant that this is not doing any good for football. Giving an update on the present position between the associations and the Guyana Football Federation, Lumumba had this to say.
We weren't prepared to move forward under that situation. So we aborted our participation, and as you see, the consequences, there was no quorum, and it came to an end. So I still believe there's room to move forward. I'm not going to get into the cussing match, who's wrong and who's right, but I would think on both sides, I think for the future of football and young people, that we need to find a middle ground. So I'm still hopefully that we can find a middle ground. I intend to meet Chris at some point this week and then meet our side and see if we can come to middle ground. I think we need to move and find a middle ground.
More football news: while the GFF and the various associations continue the fight to lose tight ends, there is still a vested interest in the grassroots level. Today, an under-13 clinic was completed, which featured over 240 participants at the Golden Grove Community Center ground. The clinic was spearheaded by the East Coast Football Association, the Golden Star Football Club, and the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport. HGP Sport was there today. You want to be like Cassius. Tell us what you've learned over these past couple of days.
Well, my coach when training me out for pass ball and take ball, right? And then after, I just say when I'm going the goal, and he put me in the goal.
Okay, so you're really aspiring to be a goalkeeper?
No, I just trying something.
What I learned about the camp is about taking and passing and shooting and the defending.
What have you learned over these past couple of days?
I learned to keep as a goalkeeper. I learned to take pass, and from there they teach me how to keep and so.
While the clinic has had a favorable response, would it just be about another clinic until next year, as is the norm? And if so, who is to be blamed? A clinic of this magnitude, what good is it if you're not going to have, another clinic until next year?
When the initiative was first discussed at the executive of the East Demerara Football Sub-Association of having such a clinic this year and at this time, it's because we've realized that there's a void, and in terms of youth football, one, and number two, we need to try to develop our nursery by having such a program. To say, well, what happens after this, it's only left on the other authorities, so to speak, like the federation, right, to organize a youth program so that these will feed into that, right? But we're satisfied that we've been able to draw at least 9 clubs.
And finally, in sport this evening, some tennis news. World number 1 Serena Williams remains on track for a first Cincinnati title with a victory over 8 seed Jelena Jankovic in the last 8. The American won 6-1, 6-3 to set up a semi-final against Caroline Wozniacki, who beat 4th seed Agnieszka Radwanska 6-4, 7-6, 7-5. World number 2 Simona Halep takes on Maria Sharapova in a rematch later this evening. That concludes our cast for today. Do remember to join us Monday again for another edition of HGP Sport. I'm Jaden Samuels saying good night.